Adam AJunglen7 Junglen has been tearing up both the live and online poker scene for the past year or so, and he's just 19 years old. He won the PokerStars Sunday Million in July, netting him almost $200,000. Then, this September, he finished in 6th place in the EPT Barcelona Open for more than $261,000, and 3rd place in the PokerStars World Championship of Online Poker Triple Shootout event, earning $36,000. Junglen is one of the nicest and most sensible poker players around, and the live tournaments in the US are in for a surprise when he turns legal. Junglen is on the phone right now to talk to us about his recent success and his advice for young poker players. Alright, how you doing, Adam?
I'm doing great.
Alright, well, first off, for those that don't know, how did you get started in poker? Like, what did you do to learn? What stakes did you start at? And how did you work your way up the ranks?
Well, that's actually a pretty long question to answer. I started out in high school. The poker boom was in full effect when I was a sophomore year, or when I was in my sophomore year. And every weekend we'd get together, 15 to 20 guys, and we'd play a home game tournament. Looking back, it was a great time. I did read some poker books and managed to make I guess a fair amount of money out of the game, considering the stakes. And from there, really just moved online. I got involved in some online forums and met some great players. And I think that's when I really started to progress. That's when I started talking and really thinking about the game deeper, and I started talking with better players, and I guess from there everything moved really fast. A year ago I was playing $55 sit and goes, and now I'm just sitting here talking to you. So
And were there any particular players that mentored you especially well, or that you had like a particularly large amount of communication with in the early phases?
Well, I was my first really great poker friend was Eggs Only, and his name's Ray Kilburn. He's the first one who I ever went on a poker trip with, which I've been on many now. And Action Jeff specifically has taught me a lot, on tournament theory. Gobble Boy, Aaron Bean, there's a laundry list of great players that have taught me, everything I know.
Well, and so you had a pretty nice September, huh?
Yeah, I certainly can't complain about my results. I managed the final table, the European Poker Tour season opener in Barcelona. I took 6th place for a little over $250,000, and then more recently took 3rd in the W Coupe Triple Shootout event for $36,000.
Well, and I hear mainly from you, actually, that you're going to get a new car today with all of your winnings, especially from, I guess not all of your winnings, but some of them. What are you looking at?
Well, just really looking at, I always kind of wanted a brand new car, but I wanted to stay, somewhat sensible, and I didn't want to spend a whole, huge chunk of my roll on the car. I ended up buying a brand new 2008 Honda Civic Coupe, and I actually just got it today. It's a great car. I'm very happy with the purchase. The guys at the dealership were pretty in shock when I bought it with cash. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Well, and on your blog at AdamJunglen.com, you were kind of listing off a whole bunch of these personalized license plates that you were thinking about getting for your car. Do you want to share some of those with us?
Sure. I particularly like the, Pone Star, GGWPUL, good game, well played, unlucky, standard, plus EV. There's a whole bunch of them, and I've had a lot of suggestions. I really can't decide. I guess I have 30 days until the temporary tag expires, and then I'll have to decide on the personalized plate.
Well, one of them that was particularly pertinent was the TYEPT. Thank you, European Poker Tour.
Yeah, my mom actually likes the TYEPT one. I think it's kind of corny, but it's all right.
Well, what else are you planning on doing with the rest of the money?
Honestly, the car was the first real big purchase I made, and I had made, I had a 200K score earlier this year in the Sunday Million. I really don't spend money on major things. You know, I'll buy clothes and like just necessary business needs, but most of it's in investments, and I'm being wise about it. Not I'm not wasting my money on anything crazy. I guess you can sort of tell by the fact that I bought a Honda Civic and not like an Action Martin.
Right. Well, something that's been kind of interesting about the final tables that you've made is that, well, not even necessarily just the final tables, but just the tables that you've played on in live poker tours, is that quite a few of them have been the TV tables, either the feature tables or the final table,
Right.
final six or whatever. And what I've always wondered is that it seems to me that the fact that your whole cards are going to be public knowledge when the tournament airs on TV might make players play differently, or might make you play differently. Do you exploit that in other players, or do you notice that in yourself?
Well, the very first televised final table I ever played was, and I was very lucky that it was a smaller tournament. It was a $1,000 buy-in tournament at Turning Stone for the Heartland Poker Tour, and I was a bit more nervous than I like to admit that day, and it was weird using hole cards, and so when I played the EPT Barcelona, I felt at home. I was completely comfortable with the idea of someone, of hole card cameras and all the lights and spectators and stuff. As far as other players, playing differently, some of them do, some of them, don't, but it's always very subtle, and it's never like a drastic change. There's never going to be a Rocky player that suddenly is going to start raising every hand just because he's on TV,
Right.
For the most part, people play fairly close to, how they normally play when they're at a televised table.
Well, so it's never like gone through your head that maybe I should make a huge bluff here or a huge hero call, because if I do, I'm going to get a lot of recognition for it?
Well, I guess you really don't need to be at a TV table to make a big call and get a lot of recognition for it.
That's true. Well, and so, like you said before, you finished really deep in the W Coupe Triple Shootout event in third place. What kind of strategy do you employ for shootouts? How different is the strategy for each of the three tables that you have to play?
That's sort of an interesting question, I suppose. Last year, I mentioned I was primarily a sit-and-go player, so I had a fair amount of experience using, the PokerStars structure of 1,500 chips, with the levels that they use. So, it's the first two tables you have to win in order to advance, and then the final table, it does have a payout jump, I believe, and the payout jumps are pretty ridiculous, if I recall correctly. I think I think ninth place was around 3,500, and first place was around 75,000. Mm-hmm. So, once we got to the final table, play changed a little bit, but first two tables, everyone knew you had to win, so, it was pretty clear objective.
Well, and even with the shootouts, though, even though they're just, the first two tables are just basically single table tournaments, it is a lot different, obviously, in the fact that you have to win. You can't get third or second like in most of them.
Right, there aren't any real bubbles.
So, I mean, does that change your game drastically, or do you basically employ a normal strategy until it gets really late in that single table tournament?
You're going to get a really standard answer. I apologize, but it really just depends on how my opponent's playing, Mm-hmm. I'll adjust to them, and, if they, for some reason, think that, it's correct to, play really crazy, then, I'll tighten up. But, it really depends on how my opponents are playing. In general, I really do play the same, in a winner-take-all format, because my style is really designed to win tournaments.
And there was an article recently in Card Player Magazine where Matt Matros commented on the structure of shootouts in the World Series of Poker, and it's basically the same thing in PokerStars. He thinks that it doesn't make sense to have it be winner-take-all for the first two tables of the sit-and-go, but then suddenly have all 9 places paid differently for the final table. Do you agree or disagree with that? Yeah,
I had a chance to glance over that article, and I can honestly say that I don't have any opinion. There aren't enough double shootouts out there, or triple shootouts rather, for me to really bother with an opinion. Just tell me what the structure is, what the payouts are, and I'll adjust to it.
That's really good advice. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and so you're 19, and you can only play in non-U.S. live tournaments as of now.
Correct.
You must be chomping at the bit to get some action stateside then, huh?
Yeah, you could say that. I guess it should be said, though, that I think it is a good thing that I am kind of forced, so to speak, to travel the world. What a tough life. I've been to Australia, Monte Carlo, Vancouver. I could go on for quite a while to play in these major events, and I've gotten to see the world, and not too many people my age have their passport filled up like I do, so it's, it kind of sucks having to deal with language barriers and currency exchanges, but, it's a new experience.
For sure.
Yeah, that being said, I'm looking forward to taking that one-way flight to Vegas and just, being able to, use the dollar and speak English.
Nice. Well, how many live events do you say that you would play every year?
Well, since I've really only been traveling, to major events for about a year now, I'd say about 7 or 8 major events, or maybe 6 to 7, 10 to 20K events. If you include the smaller, like $300 to $500 buy-in tournaments that I've played at Turning Stone and River Rock Casino, then the number would be maybe triple that to around 20 or so. But around 7 majors, I would say.
Okay. Well, and I mean, a lot of these up-and-coming poker pros and everything are kind of looking to break into the live poker scene, and a lot of them have to go overseas and stuff like that. So
right.
Do you have any advice for, like, the kind of routine that you have to adjust to the jet lag and the time differences?
Well, to be honest with you, jet lag does not affect me too bad because my sleep schedule is so awkward right now that if I land in a plane in Europe, it usually fixes my sleep schedule. However, I do have some sleeping medicine that will help me get a good night's rest before a tournament, and it'll help me adjust to any kind of major difference. But generally, my sleeping's so weird that I land in Europe and I'm on a normal schedule.
Well, that's really fortuitous then.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Well, how differently do European players play that you've noticed?
Well, the standard stereotype is that Europeans are, these really aggressive players and, they're crazy. But,
players.
It's not like every European's crazy or something. I've played with some that are pretty solid and tight. It's tough for me to pinpoint really a difference. I haven't played a whole. I mean, I've played a few EPTs, but I haven't played a whole lot of Europeans enough for me to, really notice any major differences. If I had to say anything, I'd say maybe they're slightly more aggressive, but that's really based on only a few times playing with them. So,
right.
Maybe they're a little bit more aggressive, but I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Okay. Well, now how about this then? And be honest, are Europeans or Americans easier to beat?
I have no answer for that one. There are very good European players and there are very good Americans. And there are also very bad Europeans and very bad Americans. So it's in general, like I really can't answer that question.
Okay. Well, kind of switching over to online now. How often do you play online poker?
I am the lowest volume online player featured that you will ever meet. I play when I feel like, which turns out to be not too often. During the summer, I played a lot. I played maybe 3 days a week plus Sunday, which isn't a lot compared to some players, but it was a lot for me. And then I traveled to Barcelona and London and played those major events. And now I'm home, and I'm just kind of burnt out. Just taking a break, trying to visit the family. I got the car, trying to visit friends that I haven't seen in a long time. So I don't really want to say I'm taking a break from poker, but I'm doing some errands that need to be done and trying my best to balance life with poker, which really is quite difficult.
Yeah, and it's a big thing. It's a very big thing to keep yourself happy in your job. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, considering that you play so little, actually, comparatively, you have very, very good results, obviously. I mean, you have your win in the Sunday Million, you have your deep finish in the W Cup events, and a whole bunch of things otherwise. So, I mean, would you consider yourself the best online poker player in the world, then?
Well, I really can't answer that question. Well, actually, I can't know. But I do think highly of my tournament game. And I'd also like to think that there is something to be said for playing only when you're refreshed. You know, I played that W Cup event, and I was ready and I was prepared for it. Some of my friends that play 4 or 5 days a week, they just go in and even if they're feeling a little under the weather, they'll still play and they'll still be plus EV. But you know, I only bring my A game. You know, so. You know, I only play when I'm motivated and when I really enjoy it. So I like to think that there's something to be said with that and the correlation to my results.
That makes sense, and especially during the W Cup when the events were just ridiculously long. I mean, it very much helps to be well rested so that you can, if you plan on sticking out,
of course,
you can last the entire time. So.
Yeah, and live tournaments too. Endurance in live tournaments is very, very overlooked. It's an exhausting thing there for 12 plus hours and grinding it out.
Yep. Well, last question for you then.
All right.
You started tearing it up in poker at a really young age, obviously, if you're still under 20. Do you have any advice for people in that same kind of situation?
Go to school. Don't do drugs. Seatbelts save lives. Don't drink and drive. I really wouldn't suggest poker to like anyone. I mean, you can play as a hobby, and you know, if you end up getting good, you can take it more seriously. But don't quit your job and start playing cards. It's very hard, and it's it's not as great as it looks.
Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you doing this interview with us today.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Shawn.
And thank you for watching the Online Zone on Card Player TV.